Hi, I am Father Joaquim Loiola Pereira, the Secretary of Cardinal Philippe Neri Ferrão of the Archdiocese of Goa and Daman, and I'm glad to be addressing to you viewers of TFRCC TV. Well, I'm in focus these days because just on the 13th of October, a few days ago, I released a book of mine which seems to be catching the attention of many. The book is on the history of the bishops of Goa. If you care to know, the Diocese of Goa was founded in 1533. In a few years, in less than 10 years, it will be 500 years. Now, in these almost 500 years, or 5 centuries, there have been a number of bishops who have guided the church in Goa, and most of them have been very powerful men of the church. Why do I say very powerful? Because when the Diocese of Goa was created in 1533, the jurisdiction of the Bishop of Goa extended from South Africa up to China and Japan. So all this area, Sri Lanka, Burma, Vietnam, Laos, Malacca, Macau, everything was under the Archbishop of Goa, just as politically it was under the Viceroy of Goa. Because the Archdiocese of Goa was more or less covering the same area as the state of India, Estado da India, which was established by the Portuguese in the 16th century. And that was all this wide, right from South Africa to China and Japan. So these were two very powerful figures, the Viceroy of Goa and the Archbishop of Goa. Now, I live in this house for quite some years now, almost 30 years that I live in this house, and I thought, having all these bishops in this beautiful throne hall, I hope the camera will pan and show you all these bishops. Looking at them, I said, I must bring them to the knowledge of the people outside this place, because they are here for years. How many people out there know about these bishops? So I thought I must make them known. And that's why I thought that I would publish this book, which you can see. It's titled A Church on a Journey, the Archdiocese of Goa and its Governors. You will see the cathedral here, which is the main church of the Bishop of Goa, and some figures around the cathedral, they are the governors. If you recognize this man from that distance, this is the present Archbishop of Goa, Cardinal Philippe Neri Ferrão. Now, talking about the bishops of Goa, there were some 33 Portuguese bishops, followed by 3 or 4, let us say, Goan bishops. Some of these guys were outstanding, and that's what made me say, I must make these people known to others. I'll just pick up a few. Bishop Aleixo Menezes, end of the 16th century. He governed this place for 15 years. And do you want to know something? For 15 years, every day, he had lunch with 12 homeless people from the city. Every day, 12 homeless people from the city were invited to his lunch table. He could have guests, Duke of somebody and Marquis of somebody, but to 12 homeless people every day for lunch. Outstanding. There was another person who says, I'm not worthy to live in the Archbishop's house. He made a small house for himself and he lived alone. Another person, he lived in the palace, but he lived such a frugal and humble life. It is said, I never saw it, but I read about this. In his room there was only one hard bed with 2 sheets and one cloth stand with 2 cassocks. That was all. So these are some fine persons who lived in this house, who lived not in this house, who lived in the Archbishop's house of Goa and who taught by example. In fact, the first Archbishop, Archbishop Gaspar de Leon Pereira, as I told you, his power extended from South Africa to China and Japan. And this man, when he died, he said, I want these words to be written on my tombstone. Here lies Gaspar, first name, no surname, nothing. Here lies Gaspar, the first Archbishop of Goa and the first of sinners. These are the great men, or some of the great men that are featured in this book. Not all were all that great, okay? There were some people, they were, after all, they were given the place of lords here. The kingdom of Portugal was the kingdom, and we were the colonized land of Portugal. So they lived in their palaces like the lords, and sometimes they tried to oppress the people here. For example, there was one who did not allow Konkani to be spoken. He wanted to suppress Konkani language. But there was another who learned Konkani language so that he could be understood by people one-to-one, not through interpreters. There was another who said, another archbishop, not the same person, he said, all these missionaries coming from Europe to Goa, if they are appointed in our churches in Goa, they should learn Konkani within 6 months of arrival. Because I want them to preach and to hear confessions in the language of the people. So we had bishops and bishops, some of them pro-local people, pro-local language, some of them not so in favor. So we had both types of people. But as I said, all in all, they were great people. I said that the last 4 are Goans. Who are these? Monsignor or Bishop Rebelo. He was the first bishop after liberation, after 1961. He was the first Goan. But he never became the archbishop because the last Archbishop of Goa, Portuguese Archbishop, he left Goa, went back to Portugal, but he took the title with him. So he remained there till he retired as Archbishop of Goa and Patriarch of East Indies. Therefore, the person who had to govern this place as a bishop could not have that same title. He was only apostolic administrator. That was Monsignor Rebelo. Then he was followed by the great Archbishop Raul Gonçalves, who was the bishop of this place for more than 26 years. He had so many things to his credit, I cannot enumerate all of them. And then we have the present Archbishop, Philip Neri Farão, for the last 21 years, okay? And thankfully, he is the only Archbishop of Goa right from the beginning till now to be given the title of Cardinal. He was elected a Cardinal by Pope Francis. And we are so glad about it that after all this glorious history of the Archdiocese of Goa, at last we have one Cardinal to govern this Archdiocese. We thank God for it. I have been asked to give a message to those who will read this book. The message is this. You will find that this is a palace. So palace is inhabited by high-end people. lords. But I would like everybody to know that palaces are not inhabited only by people who are proud of their position, but who are people for the people. Humble enough to say, I am here as an accident living in this palace, but my first duty is to serve my people. And most of the archbishops that have preceded us, the present Archbishop, Philip Nerifaram, if you know him, a very humble person. With all the dignity and all the importance that the church is giving him, he remains humble. If somebody comes to meet him and he cannot climb the steps of to the first floor, he is ready to go down even to the car if the person cannot move out of the car, and talk to him for 10-15 minutes. He standing and the person in the car sitting. This much of simplicity and humbleness is of our present archbishops, and we have, of the present archbishop, and we have had such people before. This is what actually I want people to know, that we have had archbishops, with some exceptions, who have been people-oriented, service-oriented, actually what we call servant leaders. And that's the message. Thank you very much.